good study and hope you will have a good Sunday. As usual, I think before we start our question answer, everybody do short meditation. First, you focus on your breath in and out, gently, softly. Next, please everybody take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Based on taking refuge, please everybody visualize all sentient beings. Particularly the being who has a lot of sufferings. And strongly wish all sentient being free from sufferings. Free from causes and condition of the sufferings. Wish all sentient being be happy. To have a cause of happiness. Not just only wishing, think strongly, I will take on the responsibility to free all sentient beings from sufferings, provide happiness and cause of happiness. In order to do that, wish to be Buddha, to benefit all sentient beings. Wish to benefit the sentient being who particularly has a lot of sufferings and problems. This mind we call bodhicitta. Second, Please think about how things exist, arise, everything, include our body and speech mind, totally empty of independent entity. Nothing can be independent, independently existent. All phenomena, particularly our body, our mind, our belongings, are empty of independent entity. Now, the mind which is bodhicitta, the mind which is understand kind of emptiness, these two minds became oneness. These two minds, which is bodhicitta, which is realized emptiness, these two minds can be primary cause to become the Rupakaya and Dharmakaya. Therefore, every day, whatever you do about study Dharma, practice Dharma, making offering, doing prostration, mandal offering, all the practices you must conjoin with the bodhicitta, the wisdom which realizes emptiness. Thank you so much. So this is our morning Dharma practice. Now we can start the question and answer.
Yes, Geshe-la.
So you can repeat me. So somebody asked question last time, right?
That's right, Geshe-la. So how would you like to start? I have two groups of questions. One group of questions are relating back to the initiation, empowerment. Another group of question is pertaining to the text, to the daily life. So which one would you like to start first?
So we can start with the second one.
The daily life pertaining
daily
to
life,
our studies.
Okay,
sure, sure. So maybe we start with Brother Hua. So Brother Hua, I managed to capture 3 questions that was left unanswered yesterday. So let me share it on the chat window. And Brother Hua, let me check, are you on the line? Brother Hua, you're on the line. So maybe I unmute you. Do you want to ask your question?
Morning,
Okay.
everyone. Good morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, good morning.
Brother Hua.
Okay,
Yes.
the question is, does the path starts with wisdom and end with wisdom? You're mentioning the 3 wheels, right? The third wheel, the path. So, yeah, that was the first question. Yeah.
So can you please repeat the question again?
Oh, the question is, does the path starts with wisdom and ends with wisdom?
Okay. I think Jacqueline already forwarded me the question. Actually, why you think the path end with the wisdom? Because the path must be start with the concept of wisdom, because beginning of the path, beginning of the real actual practice must start it with the knowing, realizing impermanence. Knowing, realizing impermanence. This is kind of wisdom. If you think more the precise wisdom, which is start the path, the wisdom which is realize emptiness. Therefore, any practice, first we must start realizing, remember impermanence and death. Then slowly you can think about the real nature of all phenomena, particularly the emptiness. Yes, the path must start from kind of wisdom, not necessarily starting with the wisdom which is knowing emptiness. I hope all of you remember, practitioner can be put into two categories. One practitioner, one kind of practitioner can generate bodhicitta without realizing emptiness. Another kind of practitioner must cultivate bodhicitta based on realizing emptiness. This is the answer for you. And the path, there's no ending. There's no end of the path. If you're thinking about the Hinayana path, please remember we have only two paths, the Hinayan and the Mahayana paths. The practitioner who mainly only follow the Hinayana path, at the end, the practitioner can achieve liberation and become Arhat. Then, after achieve the liberation, Arhat, then the practitioner can leave this physical body, which is dukkha. They're totally going to end this kind of body, which is nature of suffering. After they totally left this gross body, then there's a two different concepts, two different views. What happened after the Arhat took into parinirvana? According to, I think, Theravada tradition, one of the Theravada tradition, they believe the Arhat who took into parinirvana, then the Arhat not going to have any more life. It's a kind of loss or ending of the path, ending of the life. There's no any other life. According to Mahayana tradition, The person who achieved liberation, right? Liberation, not Buddhahood, achieved Arhat state. When the practitioner took into parinirvana, they left this physical body, this physical gross body. Still, they will rely on another, the subtle body. Also, they have the subtle minds. Within the subtle body and mind, they can remain for many eons. Then somehow, after many eons, many years, the Arhat will arose from the meditation state and enter into Mahayana path with the bodhicitta. They will become a Buddha. After he or she become a Buddha, again we can say, took into Mahaparinirvana. It means the Buddha left the physical body which they have, but they will remain with the celestial body. Therefore, there's no end of the path. According to Hinayan path, according to Mahayana path, there's no ending of the life, but there's an ending, there's an end of the samsara. They said this is the last state of the samsara, but the mind, the conscience still will remain forever. There's no ending of the life and minds. Therefore, there's no end of the path. Okay, if you're thinking ending of the end of the path mean no more learning path, no more learning path. If you're thinking about that, when the practitioner first time reached to the no more learning path, this is the ending of the obscuration. The obscuration end by wisdom. The wisdom eliminate the obscuration, not the path. Therefore, there's no end of the path. Second question.
Yeah. Thank you, Geshe-la. Second question and third question are combined into one.
Okay.
Can we have a speedy bodhicitta without empowerment or without any yidam? Why are there so many manifestations? Would there be confusion? Because we can get confused with so many yidam, or we might not have affinity with any of the yidam.
Also, again, thank you so much for asking this question. Generating bodhicitta, cultivation great compassion, cultivation renunciation, those are nothing to do with the deities and idam. Without practicing any deities and any idam, any sadhana, definitely anybody can cultivate bodhicitta, cultivate great compassion, renunciation. They are nothing to do, bodhicitta, nothing to do with the idam. Clear? Without rely or practicing idam or deities, visualizations of the Buddha, you can cultivate great compassion, bodhicitta. No need to practice deity and idam and sadhana. Yes, there are so many, different manifestation of idam. If you really need to know about all the idams, all the sadhana, all the visualization. You cannot finish in one lifetime. Also, you no need to know all the idams. For example, in Singapore, we have so many parents. All the parents are very important for the family, for the children. All the parents are not important for you, not important for your families. So your parents are very important for you, very important for your families. Same way, before you really practice the idam, you need to know which idam is necessary, important for me. In Gelugpa traditions, all the Gelugpas who follow the Lama Tsongkhapa tradition, we have only mainly 3 idams. First, Yamantaka. Yamantaka, there's 2 kinds, solitary and 13 Yamantaka. At the beginning of the path, you need a great wisdom. You need to you need to develop your wisdom. In order to develop wisdom, then we try to receive the initiation of Yamantaka, do the Yamantaka sadhana, do the Yamantaka practice, mainly 2 important reasons. 1, develop your wisdom. Second, subdue all the hindrance, inner or external hindrance. Therefore, Yamantaka is very important who follow Lama Tsongkhapa tradition. Second, we have a Chakra Samaja, Decho, not the Vajrayogini, Chakra Samaja, Chakra Samaya or Chakra Samaja. When you practice the path, particularly when you practice the swift path, which is the quicker way to achieve Buddhahood, then you need to practice the Chakra Samaja. Chakra Samaja we practice mainly to generate the great bliss, the great blissness. Not only just develop the great blissness, when you generate the great blissness, the mind have to realize emptiness. Therefore, Chakra Samaja is very important. Third, not only Gelugpa, all the Kagyupa masters, they also practice Guha Samaya, Sangdu, Samvadupa Sangdu. Because when you follow the swift path, mainly we practice the 5 stages. So when you receive the Guha Samaja initiation, empowerment, it's not only you need to do the sadhana and recitation, visualization. No. You need to practice the 5 stages. Therefore, in Gelugpa tradition, we mainly focus on 3 idams: Yamantaka, Chakra Samaja, Guha Samaja, not the Vajrayogini. There's a lot of debate is a Vajrayogini is a very important idam in Gelu or not. It is very important idam in the Sakya tradition. Therefore, I really, urge all of you, we should not try to receive so many initiation. Before you receive initiation, you need to think why I need to attend this initiation, why it is so important. Of course, you will have, I think everybody has a confusion when you think about the idams, because we really don't know exactly about the idam, about the practice. This practice is mainly for what? Yeah, this is an answer for you. Then you talking about some confusion, right? Yes, I think if you really study precisely about the Vajrayana teaching, it's for you very easy to overcome from all the confusions. But you no need to study about all the idams and all the deities. Okay, next question, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Geshe-la. So next question is the question is from Brother Lawrence. He cannot be with us today, but he will be listening to the recording. So his question is about he have a strong faith and would like to be in the Amitabha Pure Land after pass away. So when we are there, are we considered form or formless beings? Are we still within the samsara suffering until we reach full enlightenment?
Can you repeat again the last parts?
Are we still within samsara suffering until we reach full enlightenment?
Okay, first part. In Buddhist tradition, particularly in the Mahayana tradition, particularly the people who follow like a Chinese kind of Buddhism, there are so many people who practice the Pure Land. Also in Tibet, most of the Tibetan also, they recite mantra of Amida Buddha. The Pure Land practice, not only the Sutrayana practice, is also is part of the Tantrayana practice. If you only recite the Amitabha mantra, Om Namo Amitabha, that means I prostrate to the Amida Buddha. I prostrate to the Amida Buddha. Namo means prostrate or bow down. If you only recite the mantra, I don't think you will born into the Pure Land. You must recite the Amitabha mantra with the bodhicitta. If you always recite the mantra with the bodhicitta, combined with the wisdom which realizes emptiness, then right after you left this life of this world, then you can be born into Pure Land. The Pure Land is neither form and formless realms. Form and formless realms, we are talking about based on the samsaric levels, desire realms, which is we are in. The formless, these three realms include into the samsaric state, the samsaric field, not the Pure Land. Never be the three realm, never be the Pure Land. So after you practice the Pure Land for many years with the bodhicitta, with the combined with the emptiness, you will be born in the Pure Land. This pure land not include into samsaric place. It's a pure land. It's kind of the Amitabha Buddha land. So here one question everybody must think, must raise. Pure and impure land, nothing to do with the external area, the outer place. For example, Buddha Shakyamuni, according to the history, Buddha Shakyamuni, he achieved enlightenment in India. This day we name Bodh Gaya under the Bodhi tree. So first time when he achieved the enlightenment state of Buddhahood under the Buddha tree, the land for him pure land, for us samsara. Pure or impure land is not depend on externally, is depend on the internal things. Therefore, the Amitabha land, neither form nor formless. All the being has a form, but they don't have the form which is we have. Our body is made of bone, flesh, blood, so and so. The being who are in the pure land, they don't have this kind of physical body. Still they have a body. Next question.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Next question, we'll move on to Brother Samuel. Brother Samuel, would you like to unmute your mic and ask the question directly over the mic? Okay, he's unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gisela, good morning, and good
Good
morning to
morning.
everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. I have a question here because I'm not very sure about the path of accumulation. Our path,
Part of accumulation.
the path of accumulation it indicates small, medium, and great. So what is this small, medium? There are 3 stages: small, medium, and great.
Yes. Within the accumulation part,
So-
there are the 3 levels: small, medium, greater. Within the preparation, there are 4 levels. Within the seeing parts, seeing and the meditation parts, there are the 10, bhumi. So the differences between the 3 parts within the accumulation. First time, without realizing emptiness, realize emptiness. First, and when you really accomplish the bodhicitta, the first time, you enter into the Mahayana path, at the same time you already enter into the accumulation paths. Clear? That means, according to the Mahayana practice, when you accomplish bodhicitta, you become bodhisattva. You enter into Mahayana path. You enter into the first path, which is the accumulation paths. But you haven't realized emptiness. Second, after you have the bodhicitta, when you realize emptiness, then the path include into the medium. Then you need to practice 2 of them unionly, which is the bodhicitta and the wisdom which realize emptiness, compoundly, unionly. How? Let's say the first you cultivate bodhicitta for 20 minutes. within the sense of having bodhicitta, when you meditate on emptiness, that means you are practicing the wisdom. The wisdom conjoined with the bodhicitta. Therefore, you have to practice both of them unanimally. Then slowly you will achieve the karma body on the emptiness. Then you reach to the medium paths, medium accumulation path. Third, when you are almost achieved, I say almost, not heaven yet, almost achieved the special insight on the emptiness. Meditate on emptiness, you almost achieve the special insight on emptiness, then you reach to the great part of the accumulations. When you fully achieve the karma body and special insight on the emptiness, then your path transforms into the preparation. So, just accomplish bodhicitta is the first part of the accumulation. Achieve the karma body on the emptiness, you reach into the medium. Almost going to achieve a special insight on the emptiness, then you will achieve, you reach to the third part of the accumulation. When you completely achieve the shamatha and special insight on the emptiness, then your path transform into the preparation path. Clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay, next question, please.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Geshe-la.
Okay, before we ask question, also we must know why we say accumulation path, preparation path, seeing path. Accumulation what? Accumulate the merit, not the karma, not the positive karma. Accumulate the merit. Until now, we have been accumulating only the positive actions. We name merit. Actually, all the positive action, just positive action. Just, what do you call another positive action, not actually merit. In order to accumulate the merit, two kinds of merit, right? In order to accumulate the two kinds of merit, is depend on bodhicitta. The first time when you really accomplish bodhicitta, then when you are starting to accumulating the merits, not only the positive or actions, positive karma, merit. Therefore, you must think there's a difference different between positive karma and merit. So far, what we have been accumulating, all the positive action with name merit, those are not actual merit. Actual merit we can be accumulated when we accomplish bodhicitta. Why? Everybody must remember, we hope to achieve the two kayas, rupa kaya, dharma kayas. True kaya may be caused by the two kinds of merit. The two kinds of merit can be accumulated when you have bodhicitta. Therefore, accumulation, part of the accumulation. Accumulate what? Merit. Then we call preparation. Tibetan call jorlam. So what kind of preparation we doing that time? So we practice emptiness with the bodhicitta. The path is a really good preparation. It's a good preparation to see emptiness directly. Therefore, during the preparation part, there are 4 kinds of parts. Heat, then peak, forbearance, then I think great part something. There's a 4. So we got preparation. What kind of preparation we are doing? They are doing preparation to see emptiness directly. Therefore, you must know why we named accumulation parts, why we named preparation parts. Okay, next question, please.
Yes, Geshe-la. The questions are all warming up, lining up in the queue now. Okay, so the next question, Geshe-la, just to clarify, the student is trying to ask, just now we talked about Amitabha Pure Land, right? So just to clarify, Geshe-la, so does that mean that we are still within the samsara suffering, even we have reached the Pure Land? So that means we will still definitely under samsara suffering, even though are we in Pure Land? Is that true?
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have an email ID, the being who live in the Amitabha land. Otherwise, we can send email, we can chit chat. Do you have a suffering or not? Right? Here, I think everybody need to know about the 4 noble truths. Everybody know, truth of suffering, the noble truth of suffering, noble truth of origin of suffering, so and so. But within the 4 noble truths, there's a true level. One is a gross, one is subtle. Within the noble truth of sufferings, there's a true level. One is a gross, one is very subtle level. No, gross, subtle, very subtle. Also, origin of suffering is a gross, subtle, very subtle. Right now, we have all of them. We have a gross suffering, which is the physical body, is a very gross suffering. Then, when we in the middle state, intermediate state, pardo, that time, we won't have this physical body. Still, we will have another kinds of body. That body also, truth of suffering, is subtle. Then the person who born in Pure Land, the practitioner who took into Mahaparinirvana after they reached to the only Nirvana, who took into Parinirvana, they also has a very subtle body. All this body, the body which is who has during the intermediate state, the body which is who has in the Pure Land, who haven't become a Buddha, the Arhat who enter into Parinirvana, they also has a body. All those body actually is dukkha, is a true origin. It is the noble truth of suffering. Yes, the person who born into Pure Land, they rely on the subtle body. The body is still truth of suffering. They are not free from the subtle suffering. They are free from the gross level of suffering. Still, they have a suffering. They have a physical suffering. They have mental suffering. The physical suffering, not same which is we have. This means my answer for them, the being who just born into Pure Land, haven't become a Buddha, they have a truth of suffering. They have a subtle body. They are not free from suffering. They don't have a sickness, aging, or death. Why they don't have an aging? Because they don't have a body which is we have. We have a body which is made of flesh and bone and blood. That's what we can see. It's changing very fast. Also, why we have a sickness? We eat the gross food. The being who born in the pure land, they don't have the physical body which is we have. They don't eat the gross body. That's why they don't have a aging, sickness, and death. Still, they are not free from samsara. Samsara is not the place. Mainly samsara is the physical body. When we say, I am free from samsara, it doesn't mean you're no more in the world. They are no more rely on the physical body which is arise from karma and affect emotions. Yes, they have a suffering. Next question.
Yes, Geshe-la. Next question is from our Chinese-speaking student. Her name is Mei Jing. So I'll translate her Chinese question in English. So she's saying that she has a friend who is a Buddhist, currently is critically ill. She's now in her preparation for her death preparation. So she is planning for a sea cremation. But she have heard her fellow practitioners and peers to tell her not to do sea cremation because this will affect her future life. For this matter, we'd like to seek for Geshe-la advice.
Thank you so much for asking this question. Okay. The cremation, how they cremate, how they, clear away the body is depend on culture. And Christianity and Muslim, they bury it. Hindu, according to Hindu tradition, they do the cremation. In Tibet, some part of Tibet, they do the cremation. Some of the part of Tibet, they say sky bury. They chop up all the body, cut into many pieces, and this body they give to the vulture. How they clean the body, clear the body is dependent on just culture. If the body do into cremated, it doesn't affect any your next life. Sky bury underground, throw in the sea, it doesn't affect in your next life. Definitely no. Please don't worry. Because your next life come after you fully leave this body. So before this cremated this body, your friend already went into the next life, gone into next life. Therefore, they can do the cremation, they can throw in the sea, they can put into underground. It's okay. It's just culture. So related to this cremation or I think it's just culture. Therefore, I think in the Chinese culture, please make sure, I'm not criticizing your culture. I'm not criticizing Tibetan culture. Some cultures are very important. We must preserve, we must follow. Some cultures are no more important. We still not just, protect the culture, which is not important, not useful. Therefore, I think in Chinese culture, after someone pass away, they have to spend a lot of money to decorate the place, so many things, maybe 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. At least I think you have to spend $10,000. Also, you can do the simple way. After someone passes in hospital, make sure the person is fully leave the body. Then you can bring directly to the cremation. No need to put in the house for a few days, do all the, the culture things. Because in the past, I went to do some chanting, someone passed away. When we were doing chanting, I feel very bad. The people who come to pay respect the person who passed away, they don't have any kind of sense of feeling. They just come, burn a chopstick, do 3 times, and sit on the chair, drink tea, coffee, look like they are doing party. Therefore, some cultures are very important, very nice. We must preserve. Some culture not important anymore, no use, we no need to follow. Therefore, whatever they wish to do is okay. It won't affect any of your next. You won't get any effect for your next life, because before they cremate it or throw the body in sea, your friend already has taken the life, already born into somewhere. Yes. Next question, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Mhm.
So next question, I would ask Li Hua, Sister Li Hua, to unmute her mic. She would like to ask regarding yesterday's Geshe-la discourse on balancing compassion with wisdom. So Sister Li Hua, can we get you to speak on the mic? Yeah, I think you're trying to select your microphone on the screen, right? Cannot hear you.
Okay. Why I said,
I still cannot hear you.
okay, it's okay,
Sorry.
sir.
Mm.
It is
Can I?
very, very important to make a balance between compassion and wisdom. We say the middle way or middle path. Making balance is very important in every fields. For example, we must eat food, we must drink, otherwise we cannot survive. If we eat too much, we have a blood pressure, we have a high cholesterol, we become fat, then we need to do a lot of exercise, we need to spend a lot of money to reduce the overweight. If you eat very little food, it's no good. Your body become very weak. You won't have enough energy in your body. Therefore, you must eat, should not eat too much, should not eat little. You must eat, make a balance in drinking and eating. Every field, we need to make a balance. We must wear clothes. Why we need to wear clothes? We need to protect our body. We need to cover our body. If you don't cover your body, you will get a lot of sickness and a lot of disease. Wearing clothes just mainly protect your body. Wearing clothes is not more for show off your beauty. No. Therefore, we must wear clothes, not expensive, not just petty, too simple. No. If you wear expensive clothes, even though you have a lot of money, if you wear very expensive clothes, expensive jewelry, sometimes make you very unhappy. If you wear very simple clothes, very petty clothes, also make you very unhappy. You need to make a balance about your clothes, eating, whatever, make a balance. Particularly when you do practice, if you only practice compassion, not much wisdom, you cannot be free from suffering. You're not able to overcome from suffering, overcome from all the negative thoughts. Therefore, you need a wisdom. If you only practice wisdom, if you only meditate on emptiness, you never able to enter into the path. You're never going to enter into the path. You're not going to achieve liberation and Buddhahood. No. If you only practice compassion, you become very calm, very compassion, very nice, very loving person. But you're not able to overcome from suffering. Therefore, you need to practice both of them, the wisdom and compassion. If you only practice wisdom, you can reduce the negative thoughts. But you're not able to enter into the path. If you only practice compassion, you become very calm, nice, no more angry, but still you will remain in samsara forever. Therefore, you need to practice both of them.
Okay.
Okay, next question is.
Thank you, Geshe-la. So just to clarify her question, she's saying that, so this kind of wisdom is actually the wisdom in the ordinary sense, like being street smart, common sense, logical thinking, or the wisdom is specifically speaking about the wisdom of realizing emptiness.
Okay. Wisdom is the English words. Wise person, wise, and wisdom, wise. Being wise can be good, can be bad. In the Sanskrit word, this is parjnana, parjana or parjnana, parjnana. In Tibetan, we have a sherap. She means knowing, realize, knowing, aware. Knowing, awareness is not just important. Then it has a rap, she rap. You know the best. You aware the best, not just aware. Therefore, in Tibetan language, we have a sherap. Then sherap. Then Parjnana, go beyond the wisdom, which is go beyond. So the wisdom has a different levels. It's a common sense was, oh, the person is very wise. He's a lot of wisdom. He's a very wise person. Meaning he or she knows very well how to do things very well. The person is very wise person. It doesn't mean the wisdom is a good wisdom. I always say, the wisdom is the first wisdom important. First important wisdom is the wisdom which is realized impermanence. Impermanence, the subtle impermanence. For us, quite easy to realize the subtle impermanence because you can see things are changing momentarily, things are changing every day. Then you need to focus more deeper level, why things are changing. Why, like for 7 hours, there was a darkness. Now why there's a, lights so bright? Why yesterday was so cool, today is so hot? When you look at closely all that phenomenon, everything is changing. You can see the changing, transforming, changing. If you think more deeper, precisely, you will notice things are changing momentarily. It's so fast, so quick. When you realize this one, then it's very easy to reduce attachment, anger, ego, pride, jealousy. Therefore, when we say wisdom, the wisdom must be antidote to reduce the negative thoughts. Particularly, in order to reduce the ignorance, then you need a great wisdom which realizes emptiness. So among the wisdom, realizing subtle impermanence, realizing emptiness, these two wisdom is very important when you practice the Dharma. I'm not talking the common sense wisdom. You know, someone really good in English, computer, science, someone really good, have a very unique ability to, you know, maintain the friendship and relationship. I'm not talking this kind of wisdom. Next question, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Geshe-la. We have finished those questions more on general studies and other daily lives. The next few questions are more on the initiation, the empowerment. So we have a list of questions on that by different students. I will unmute the first student mic first. Lian Chu, let me unmute your mic. Okay, can you speak over your mic?
Sure. Good morning, Tashitele Geshe-la.
Is delayed?
Thank you for giving us your time. It's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
At the initiation ceremony, His Holiness gave us 2 mantras.
Mm-hmm.
On Friday, he said before we go to sleep, he asked us to recite Sri Vajra Krodha Haya Griva Hulu Hulu Humpet.
Mm-hmm.
And then yesterday at the Simhanada initiation, he gave us the mantra Om Shri Simhanada Humpet.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, first of all, I'm not sure what the first mantra was for. And secondly, how and when should we recite these mantras that His Holiness gave us at this latest one? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much asking this question. Actually, His Holiness asked you to recite the Sri Bada Boda Hayagiwa Hulu Hulu Humpe. This is the mantra of the Hayagiwa. So peacefully, all of the Shora, you know, 1,000 Amchenrezi, 4 Amchenrezi, 2 Amchenrezi. Peacefully, you can call all of the Shora. Roughly, you can call Hayagiwa. Hayagiwa. That means Hayagiwa and Avalo the Shora. These 2, you know, deities are, you know, same nature, different manifestation. So Hayagiwa is the roughful Avalo the Shora. So he asked to recite the mantra before you go to bed. Not every day. Not every day. After you receive the first kind of preparation teaching, then you need to check your dream. I think already I received a question about the dreaming. You need to check what kind of dream you will have that night before you receive the initiation. So in order to have a good dream, you need to clarify all the hindrance, particularly if you feel you have a kind of, you know, harming by the spirit or ghost, then you must recite this Hayagiva mantra, then you will sleep. You are reciting this mantra to, you know, stop all the hindrance, which is hindrance for having dreaming. Therefore, this mantra you ask to recite that night, not every night. Clear? Every night. But since you receive the, you know, empowerment about the mantra, you can recite the mantra anytime. Particularly, if you feel you have a kind of, you know, sickness or disease mainly caused by a naga, then what mantra you can recite that time. You don't need to recite the mantra anytime. No. He asks you to recite that night, not every night. The second, you know, Singhe Dado also is mainly need to recite when you feel there's a sickness or disease or harming by naga. So Hayagiva is not just a deity, it's included into Yidam. Particularly in the Nyingmapa tradition, many Nyingmapa master, they do the Hayagiva practice for many different purposes. This is the answer for you. Next question, please. Also, somebody asked dreaming. Okay. If I have a bad dream, what happened? Can I attend or cannot attend? So he's already finished the initiation. If the practitioner, if the disabled really follow the, traditional way, the master first will give you the preparation kind of empowerment or preparation practice. Then you have to do the preparation practice for few months. Then you go back to see your teacher or guru, then explain what kind of experience he or she has for last 3 months. Then the teacher will check what kind of experience he or she has. According to that, then the teacher give initiation. In the lower Tantrayana, there are only 2 initiation: water initiation and Mukhat initiation. In the higher Yoga Tantra, there are 4 initiations. This day, the 4 initiation performs within 1 day, within few hours. Traditionally, all initiation must perform step by step. First initiation, let them practice for many years. Second initiation, practice. For example, Lama Marpa, he didn't give teaching right away to the Milarepa. Many years, he asked him to build few castles, few houses with a lot of difficulty things. This means it's a preliminary practice. Then he gave teaching. Then he asked, go and do meditation, have an experience. Then he teach step by step. Therefore, initiation have to go through step by step. If you have a good dream, it doesn't mean, it's not really stable. It's kind of, you will have a kind of hindrance to do practice. If you have a good dream, that means you are very stable to receive the teaching, practice the idam. Okay, so next question, please.
Thank you, Geshe-la. So coming back to dream, right? I think yesterday there is student asking, how about no dream? Another question is that after the empowerment, a student actually dreamt of the initiation guru. So what does that mean? So these 2 questions on dreams.
Is no dream mean also, I think generally, while we have a dreaming, while we have a dream, usually, we have so many different kinds of dreams. Sometimes we don't have a dream. If you don't have a dream, it's also okay. When you have a dream, then you need to think about the dreaming. Yes, you have a dream about the guru. Also, what kind of dream you have about the guru? The guru is very fresh, very joy, dress up very nicely, or look like the guru is very old, the guru is very sick, the guru is not so happy. And also you need to check about what kind of dream you have about the gurus. If you see the guru is look, very old or not so happy, not so fresh, I mean also this is kind of indication. If you practice this idam, you will have a certain kind of problems. No dreaming is also, when you have a dream, then you need to think. Because that night, so you will have a dream, you will or you won't have a dream, but when you have a dream must be related to your practice because before you sleep, you cultivate great compassion, bodhicitta, wisdom, there is a mantra, then you fall asleep within this kind of practice. Then the dream is related to your practice. That's why this is important. Okay, next question.
Okay, Sheila. So we move on to the next question. So pertaining to empowerment. So, okay, these students mentioned that um, His Holiness Dalai Lama gave the Avalokiteshvara empowerment yesterday with the main deity, which is the thousand eyes and thousand arms, which she have attended and participated. But she believed, however, most of us in the past, we have been practicing using the four arms charizit for quite some time. So can Geshe-la advise how do I or we move forward? Do we visualize Avalokiteshvara or do we visualize the four arms charizit for a more effective realization?
Is the Lisun?
Sorry?
This Lisun?
Yes, correct. That's right. Geshe-la.
Okay. Also, thank you so much for asking the question. Usually, if you do the four arms charismatic practice, sadhana, it's okay. You just follow the practice. So, we everybody know how we should complete the sadhana. All the sadhana at the beginning, taking refuge in bodhicitta must be there. After, complete the taking refuge in bodhicitta, then there's a, must be time to arise you yourself as the deity. Then there's a time to visualize the deity. Then there's a time to do the visualization. So when you visualize the idam, Avalokiteshvara, if you normally do the four charis, is completely okay. So far you receive the initiation about the four charis. At the beginning, you visualize the four charis, 1,000 arms charis. Then instantly, the 1,000 arms charis transform into the four arms charis. Then you can continue the practice as usual. Instantly, first you visualize the 1,000 charis. Then 1,000 charis instantly transform into four charis. Then you can complete your sadhana. Is okay. If you are not able to visualize 1,000 charis, still okay. You can do the four charis. It's also included in the practice of the 1,000 charis. Okay, next question, please.
Okay, Geshe-la, next question is from Sister Anjali. Sister Anjali, you are on the line. Can I unmute your mic? Would you like to ask your question? Yeah, you are unmuted.
Thank you for your kindness as always, Geshe-la. Thank you so much.
Okay, most welcome.
My question is, a couple of years ago, I think 5 years ago, I had the fortune of having the Avalokiteshvara empowerment in France from His Holiness. I didn't understand much, and I still don't understand much. I'm a very ignorant person. I remember at that time, he threw the flower or the stick when he and it fell in the land of Akshobhya Buddha. And we were told that that will be our deity or something like that. I'm not sure. And yesterday, if I understand, it was the Amitabha Buddha. So I'm not sure what this means because I've had two empowerments now. And one time it was the Akshobhya Buddha in the east, and now it is Amitabha in the west. So I'm not sure what that means and what I should do. Thank you so much.
Actually, this is, I don't think you need to worry too much. That time, I think they really do the proper testing, what flowers, where they is going to fall over, east, west, south, north, in the central. You can say it was fall into the east. The last time, yesterday, His Holiness didn't check about the flower, where is fall over. Also, he didn't check the soshing, the stick. When he says, all of you received the Avalokiteshvara, so since today, your name is the Dharma Vajra. And also the five family Buddhas is very important. When we do the higher Tantra Yoga or lower Tantra Yoga, all the Tantra Yoga, you always mention one of the five family Buddhas or all five family Buddhas. I think it should be okay. I will explain very little bit shortly.
Thank you.
So we have a gross minds, then subtle mind, then very subtle mind we name clear light mind or clear light mind. It's most of the subtlest mind. The clear light mind compound or rely or with the subtle energy of subtle wind, a subtle wind. The subtle wind has five colors. Five colors. A subtle wind is a kind of wind, but it has a color. Five colors. It looks like a rainbow. Five colors. Also, we have five aggregates. The five family Buddhas also related with our five aggregates, also related to the five colors of the subtle wind. So when you practice the higher Tantra Yoga very seriously, there's five family Buddhas also you need to visualize. Also, the position of the five families Buddha not always permanent. Also, according to your daily practice, according to your practice, the five family Buddha's position have to be changed. Not someone is one of the Buddha in the east, sometimes they have moved in the west and south in the center. They are not always in the one directions. Therefore, we call transform position of the Buddha. Therefore, the five family Buddhas linked with our five aggregates, linked with the five color of the subtle wind. Also, sometimes the flower fall into east, west. It depends on the practice of the guru, practice of the disciple. Also, five family Buddha is not just totally five difference. Your subtle energy, the subtle mind, the subtle wind slowly manifests as a five Buddha for you. In the Tantra, higher Tantra Yoga, we saw illusory body. So when you already have the illusory body based on practice of Avalokiteshvara or practice of not Avalokiteshvara, practice of the higher Tantrayana deities like Yamantaka, when somebody look at you, they can see as Anjali you. They cannot see any differences. Actually, within your subtle wind, subtle channel in the center, there's a beautiful, very tiny, small Yamantaka already established. That means this subtle Yamantaka is your body, your subtle body. Therefore, sometimes you rely on the gross body, sometimes you rely on the subtle body. Therefore, five family Buddha, you should not is total is Avalokiteshvara, Amida Buddhas is total externally. is manifestation of your subtle energy into 5 color, into 5 Buddhas. So when you become Buddha, you need to eliminate all the 5 aggregates. When you become Buddha, you will have a 5 family Buddhas instead of the 5 aggregates. So therefore, you no need to worry, when the flower fall over in France, when the flower, fall over in Dharamshala.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome. Next question,
Okay.
please.
Yes, next question on initiation. So it was being said that we are not allowed to eat black food, such as garlic, onion related, to take the Avalokiteshvara empowerment. So how does it helps by not eating black food? That is the first question. The second question is, can a vegetarian eat garlic and onion normally?
Okay. I think black food, there's a different meaning. Sometimes when the people say black food, you're not supposed to eat like a radish, not supposed to eat carrot. So I'm not sure, we don't have the concept of black food in Tibetan. We say white food, red food. Red mean meat. White mean no meat. Kargyong, marze. So here we need to know when we practice like a Thara, when we practice medicine Buddha, when we practice Avalokiteshvara, why not we are not allowed or not supposed to eat the red food, let's say black food, like meat, garlic, onion, egg. Why not? We need to know why. The 5 Tantra teaching, Kriya, right? First is Kriya, then we call it Chayu, action, then second one, perform, action, yoga, higher Tantra yoga. There's a 4 kinds of Tantra practice. The first Kriya Tantra practice. We saw Kriya. We Tibetan call Cha Yu. Cha Yu mean Tantra. Cha mean like action Tantra. So that time, you have to practice the paths, you have to practice the Dharma. Also, must be very, very careful for the external things. You have to be very clean. You have to take shower every day. You have to clean your room. All the offering must be very clean. Therefore, should not eat meat. If you eat meat, it became very smelly. It's considered very dirty, not clean. You should not eat meat, egg, and garlic. Why garlic? Also, when you eat the garlic, it's very smelly. Also, is also linked with the Indian culture. And the ancient time, in the Buddha lifetime, egg only eating the people who do the bad job, like butcher, making shoes. Therefore, if you practice Dharma, if you follow Dharma, you are not supposed to eat egg and meat. Garlic considered is very unclean, impure, because you follow the action Tantra. According to action Tantra practice, everything must be very clean. The place where you practice, the food which you are eating, the drink which one you drink, everything must be very clean. No black, no red, clean. We emphasize about mainly the your daily actions. And vegetarian, if you are vegetarian, eating garlic is, for me, I feel it's completely okay. Because garlic doesn't have a life. Veggie, non-veggie, I think is mainly meat, is also linked with the life. If you are vegetarian, you're not supposed to eat egg. Generally, the egg, we believe it has a life. Meat, we're taking life. If you are vegetarian, I feel it's okay to eat garlic. If you are totally veggie, then I think it's okay to eat garlic. If you practice the Kriya Tantra seriously, then you should not eat garlic. You should not. Eating garlic is okay or not is also to connect with the culture. In India, in the Buddha lifetime, around that area, I think mainly dominated by the Jain tradition. And also one of the other religions. All the religious people, they didn't eat onion, garlic, egg. They also, garlic is considered as a very bad food. It's with the culture. Particularly according to the Jain tradition. Do you know we call the twins religion, Buddhism and Jainism? Twins mean they both of them established very closely. Therefore, at the Buddha lifetime, all the Buddhists, particularly all the Sanghas and are not supposed to take garlic because of the culture. But if you take a garlic, it doesn't mean it is against your vows. No, it's culture. Next question, please.
Yes, Kashila. So the next question is, just now you mentioned about dreams, right? So for a student, after they have recited the Hayagriva mantra, in their dream, they were dreaming that he was actually queuing up, but he cannot remember he was queuing up for what. So is there a significance in this kind of dream, or can you explain more what does this mean? He's queuing on something, but what does that mean?
Yes, you can have a dream about queuing. You can have a dream, going somewhere, walking somewhere. Also, it depends on the directions. If you have a dreaming, you're queuing up in the north side. You are moving in the north side. South. Consider no good dream. You are queuing up or in the eastern direction. You are moving, going towards eastern direction is a good dream. Because in culture, again, west and east is we consider good. For example, according to, I think, feng shui, according to also Tibetan culture, when you build a house, you must face your door in the east, not west. West and north. Because look at, within one day, after we slept, next morning everything arise. Sun arise, the first day, fresh thing arise from the east is good. Not everything go down. Therefore, eastern side is considered good, the western side considered bad. And facing your door facing in the north, no good. South, no good. Try to face in the east. In Singapore, we don't have a choice. It's okay. Your door face north, east, west. Don't worry. Yeah, queuing up also there's a meaning. Next question, please.
Okay, Kashila. Last two questions. So the second last question. So this student is asking, if one has taken 2 types of higher yoga tantra, can we just concentrate in practicing one? And also for those who have taken yesterday online initiation from His Holiness for the first time, do they need to do daily 6 sessions of Guru Yoga?
Commitment doing the 6th session Guru Yoga is linked with the receiving the higher yoga tantra initiation, not the lower tantra. No. If you already received the higher yoga tantra initiation, then your commitment always do the 6th session Guru Yoga every day. Yes, many of us receive, many, different kinds of higher yoga tantra initiation. But you mainly focus one practice. Rest of the practice you can do as your commitment, your daily practice. Mainly you focus, you are one of the deities. For example, in the Gelugpa tradition, it depends on the practitioner. As a beginner of the higher yoga tantra practitioner, at the beginning you very much focus on practice Yamantaka. Rest of the true deity you do daily, every day, but not focus much. Then in the middle or after many years, then you must focus on the chakra samaja. You must do the Yamantaka. Yamantaka, not that important. That moment, the chakra samaja is very important. Then at the end, most time you do the Guha Samaja practice. Therefore, you must know when should I do this practice most importantly. Yes, for you, let's say you receive 2-3 higher yoga tantra initiation, you can mainly focus one, rest of them you can do your daily practice as your daily practice. You should not focus, all the deity as the most important. No, then you will have a lot of, difficulties. Next question, please.
Okay, so the last question for today's session is just now Sister Li Hua was asking about the balance of compassion and wisdom, right? So Geshe-la, you mentioned about the term sharab. So is there a difference between sharab versus mind training?
Oh, yeah. Not versus is a difference. Versus means totally, opposite or totally different. Practicing compassion, also mind training. Love, and also mind training. Practicing of, tonglen, also mind training. Mind training means you are training your mind. All the mind training practice, not necessarily to be practice of the wisdom. That means, I told in the last class, you are a human being. Human beings are not you. The wisdom practice is the mind training. The mind training not necessarily to practice the wisdom. So mind training is a general. The wisdom practice is a particular. That means all the dharma practices must be mind training because you are training your mind. There's no verses, but there's a differences between mind training and wisdom. For example, we have 7 verses of mind training. When you look at each of the content, also practice great compassion, practice patience, practice contentment, so and so. Therefore, mind training is a very general. Practice wisdom is very particular for you. I think this is the last question, right? Is there any
Yes,
question?
Geshe-la, this is the last question. I have concluded reading from the chat window. So if you still have more questions after today's session, do send us an email at center@tibetanbc.org. So just a reminder, next Sunday, we will cancel the 7 June Sunday class. So if you have a question, email us first. We would share with Geshe-la, and then we'll have it answered on the next session. Reminder that Saturday classes still remains. Lumbering class is the same at 3 p.m. And also a reminder that there will be Green Tara Puja on Saturday, 10 a.m. All right? Yeah. So that's all, Geshe-la. Is there anything else to let us know?
I think I will say it very shortly about the 6 session Guru Yogas. Living in, like in the modern society, living in the Himalaya is big difference. The people who live Himalaya, like Tibet, like Ladakh, like Nepal, Bhutan, those people has a lot of free time to do the practices. These days, they're also, becoming busy. Generally, most people has a, lot of time to practice Dharma, to receive initiation, to read all the texts, Dharma texts. Living in the Western country, living in Singapore, Malaysia, China, I think most people are very busy. You don't have a choice, you have to be busy. You know busy, you become lazy. No lazy, no money. There's no choice, you have to be busy. But also at the same time, you cannot practice everything very widely because you need a lot of times. You need long time. Therefore, you must know how to put all practice in together. Also, you must know how to complete the practice within a short time. Somebody asked this question, oh, I received, many initiation. I don't have a time to do all the sadhana because I'm been busy. I'm always be busy. I have to be busy. What should I do? Then His Holiness answered, so when you do the 6 session Guru Yoga, at the end, I think, who are doing the 6 session Guru Yoga, almost ending of the 6 session Guru Yoga, there's a time to visualize, arise the Vajradhara, also visualizations. His Holiness says, when you visualize the Vajradhara, then at the same time you visualize the the idams, like Yamantaga, Vasamaja, Chakra Samaja, visualize the idam. Then you recite the the mantra, a root mantra, action mantra, whatever mantra you need to recite. You recite the mantra at that moment. Then you do the visualization. Then when you do the 6 session Guru Yogas, you can complete your daily idam practice. It is okay, you can do when you are very busy. When you have a free time, when you are free, then you can do the extensive one. Generally, you can conclude everything in a very simple way. The 6 session Guru Yoga has an extensive and the short one. Usually you can do the short one. Short and long is not depend on the words. You cannot do the proper visualization, proper meditation if you recite all the words, meaningless. If you're able to do the proper visualization, meditation, you can omit, you can avoid all the words. It's okay. So this I want to say today, and thank you so much for participating for question answer sessions. Now I really hope everybody always be physically healthy, mentally happy. In order to have a physical healthy, the mental health is very important. If you are mentally very healthy, mentally very calm, then definitely, physically, you can be healthy. At least if you don't eat, bad food. Therefore, everybody, I really wish to have a healthy body, healthy mind, physically healthy, mentally happy, and be happy with your families. They always have a, argument, always have a disagreement within families, within husband and wife. You need to, despite all the, argument, still, try to be harmonious with your families, with your friends, with your husband and wife, your children. And thank you so much for attending the class. And thank you.
so much.